We just got the best look yet at Phantom Liberty and patch 2.0 for Cyberpunk 2077. Just yesterday, we got another edition of Red Streams, where community managers and devs alike gave us an extended look at what is coming with this new Phantom Liberty expansion, but also the patch 2.0 update. And this was the big one, as we got some real and rather raw gameplay of the new skill trees, the police rework, and even some of Phantom Liberty itself. This is by far the best look we've had thus far at all of the new content coming to Cyberpunk 2077. And even if you watch the stream, trust me, there's a ton to break down throughout all of this. But if for some reason you don't own Phantom Liberty yet, you can buy it right now on GOG using my affiliate link down below, and I'll even get a small kickback. But to kick off the stream, we get an introductory look as to how Phantom Liberty begins. And if you're trying to avoid spoilers, don't worry that much. We're really just seeing the early segment of Phantom Liberty. This is literally how the questline is going to begin, so there's no major spoilers here. Although Phantom Liberty won't technically be available right from the start of a new playthrough. Instead, the Phantom Liberty questline is going to begin right after the Bridget and Voodoo Boys questline, so a decent chunk into the game, but CDPR is aware that a ton of people are going to just want to jump right into Phantom Liberty, so during character creation, you're actually able to skip ahead in the game directly to that moment. So if you do want to use a new character, but don't have to replay all of that old familiar content. Alternatively though, you could just use one of your existing saves, and if you're past this point already, Songbird's going to reach out to you as soon as you load into that save. And you are going to be able to play both the vanilla story and Phantom Liberty at the same time, or even switch in between the two as you progress. And things for Phantom Liberty are going to open up with a call from an unknown caller. This is going to be from Songbird, one of the new main characters in Phantom Liberty, who at the start is going to be on the plane with Rosalind Myers, president of the new USA. Kurt Hansen, ruler of Dogtown, has hacked the plane and blocked all communication except between Songbird and us thanks to the relic in our head. It's the relic that's allowing Songbird to communicate with us at all. And we can see a more visceral glitch effect here. Songbird's hacking into the relic and is able to interact with us in a way that's pretty similar to how Johnny normally interacts with us. And the way this kicks off and introduces you is Songbird's attempting to make a deal for your life. Songbird knows the relic will kill us, and she says if we help her, she will help us fix our relic problem. Songbird's meant to be an incredibly powerful netrunner. I mean, even right off the bat, you could see her disable Johnny just by tapping him, which is pretty insane. And I mean, she's literally a netrunner working side by side with the president. She's top tier, so it makes sense that she can actually do something about our relic problem. And we can see this opening quest will direct us to Dogtown, which from this new gameplay looks absolutely epic. The minimum system requirements are being increased with this expansion, and you could certainly see why. Night City looks better than ever in some of these new visuals. And one of the big new features is introduced via Songbird, who activates the new Relic skill tree in our head. The new Relic skill tree will enhance your cyberware, and although it is just opened up here by Songbird, to get more Relic points to spend, you're going to have to find these Militech data terminals that are scattered all around Dogtown. It's basically described how these are remnants from a war of the past, so it makes sense that they're still just sitting here. And we get a really good look at the new Relic skill tree. We can see many of the available abilities and perks that we will be able to unlock. Jailbreak is the ability that was shown in the trailer earlier this week. It's going to basically be new and enhanced abilities for all of the ARM cyberware. And based off the gameplay, it looks like this first perk with Jailbreak is going to be automatically unlocked by Songbird right at the start of Phantom Liberty. But there's a variety of other main perks as well. Emergency Cloaking enhances optical camo to make enemies forget your location even if combat already began, which honestly sounds super powerful. A way to re-establish stealth even after combat is broken out is really strong. Vulnerability Analytics allows you to detect vulnerabilities in enemy armor or cyberware, and landing shots there will deal bonus damage. This is going to be a weak spot mechanic for Cyberpunk. We've seen it in some past gameplay where you basically just land shots in a certain area to deal bonus damage. And we can see Relic Perks are going to also have secondary smaller perks to enhance their functionality even further. Such as here we have Machine Learning, which will make it so after you destroy an enemy's vulnerability or weak spot, you deal bonus damage against subsequent vulnerabilities you hit. So basically keep hitting weak spots and you'll keep dealing more damage. And it seems like the main perks are going to cost 3 points here, while the secondary perks will only cost 1 point. And we can see some of the other secondary perks for ARM cyberware as well. Data tunneling seems to reveal 2 things. It mentions how if you hit an enemy affected by a monowire uploaded quick hack, subsequent hits on other enemies will spread that quick hack. So 1, it sounds like you can now upload quick hacks via monowire, this likely being the monowire enhancement from this core relic tree. It's very likely that if you upload a quick hack using monowire, you have to be closer to that enemy, but it's probably cheaper, even just a more powerful version of that quick hack. And if you've been following Cyberpunk for a while, you probably remember this as it was actually shown in the 2019 demo of the game. Seems like originally you could only upload quick hacks using monowire, but obviously that was cut from the final build. So it's really awesome to see this come back in a unique and enhanced way. And it sounds incredibly strong, being able to spread quick hacks with melee attacks from monowire. Launch capacity override gives the projectile launch system 1 additional charge. Limited removal will make the shockwave attack from gorilla arms knock down all enemies within range. By default, it'll likely just knock down the enemy you punch directly. And spatial mapping makes it so all leap attacks with mantis blades will cripple enemies and are more likely to dismember them. Overall, I love that they're finally adding in a new skill tree for the Relic, although I'm pretty surprised by how focused it is. Arm cyberware alone is going to make up over half of the perk options here, but even still, I think in general this should unlock some pretty epic new gameplay opportunities and new ways to build around certain gameplay. I know for me, I'm super excited to try this new monowire functionality and see how that can synergize with other Netrunner builds in general. In the background footage, as they're verbally explaining the Relic tree, we get a preview of a variety of other perks and the reworked perk trees coming with the 2.0 update. We can see that the tree is now tiered. Different segments of the perk tree are going to be locked dependent on how many points you have in the overarching attribute. And there's going to be some broader changes on how this all works. Perks can now be refunded individually. So if you pick a perk and then realize, oh, I don't really like this, you could just refund it and spend that point elsewhere, giving you far more build flexibility. And attributes are going to have 1 full reset per playthrough now. So if you just want to start completely over, you can also go that route, which is really nice to finally have. Skill levels are going to be reworked somewhat. You can see here that each level of a skill is going to do something slightly different. Level 1 and 2 are just really going to be stat bonuses, while level 3 is a new and full-fledged ability with overclock mode. So when you run out of RAM, you can now activate overclock mode to use quick hacks, and it's just going to cost some of your HP. Dashing has an entire tree connected to it now, and tons of bonuses for some high movement gameplay. And one change that I completely missed, even during my own hands-on, is shooting a weapon is now going to use stamina. You can see in this gameplay, with each shot fired, the stamina is going away slightly, and there's going to be a variety of new perks to lower the stamina cost of firing. Even separate from this, we know that healing items are going to now have a cooldown with Phantom Liberties. You're not able to just spam healing items continuously, and there's going to be some perks to affect that also. It seems like with this 2.0 update, Cyberpunk is becoming a bit more hardcore, and I feel like fans are definitely going to have strong opinions on this one way or another. Bleeding is getting reworked with this update. It's not going to finish enemies directly, but a bleeding enemy is more susceptible to a finisher as well as dismemberment in general. We saw quite directly in the most recent trailer how cyberware has been overhauled, so now it's going to largely act as your armor, but you'll also have certain limits on how much cyberware you can have installed at a given time. I know though, CDPR has definitely not added in full-scale cyberpsychosis. This new Edgerunner perk is going to give you the ability to go over the cyberware limits. This will come at the cost of some of your overall health, but how far you go over this limit will lead to a percentage chance of entering a fury state when you finish an enemy. So although it's not cyberpsychosis, you could basically go into an altered and enhanced fury state, and it's going to be more likely the more cyberware you have installed. So it's kind of almost similar to cyberpsychosis without quite fully being that. And some perks are even going to unlock new cyberware slots for you. Adrenaline's going to be a new mechanic implemented by perks that will give you the ability to overheal and basically have a larger health bar temporarily. And during some later gameplay, we even see our character seemingly self-revive after reaching 0 HP, which looks like a pretty epic new ability. And in the more extended gameplay they share, we can see a lot of these new perks in action. New finishers around blunt weapons, where you could just finish the enemy or alternatively pick them up and throw them. There's going to be far less recoil with heavy weapons if you have a high enough body attribute. And the new Quake perk, where you could slam the ground in front of you, creating a shockwave that impacts all of the enemies around. And if you do this next to a vehicle, it'll also impact the vehicle. And what really strikes me about all of this is how much more ability-focused combat will genuinely be. Going down a skill tree just won't be about increasing your damage with certain weapon categories anymore. Now, you will legitimately have a ton of new functionality depending on how you build out your character, which is really exciting to me. But then we continue on seeing a bit more of the opening of Phantom Liberty. We can see our initial entrance into the new district with Dogtown. The original idea behind Dogtown was going to be this dream section of Night City, where people with tons of money would have some next level experiences. Unfortunately though, a war broke out, leading to many corps leaving the area, and as a result, we now have this very damaged and at points near post-apocalyptic landscape around us. Dogtown is designed to be a completely decayed and dystopian world, but also one without the same laws as the rest of Night City. In some of the gameplay, we could see ourselves getting acquainted with a couple of Barghest soldiers. There's going to be the faction currently in power in Dogtown, controlled by Kurt Hansen, and seemingly we get some opportunities to mingle with them early on during the questline. But this is relevant in what you'll find. There's effectively a different ruling body here with their own set of laws, and as such, many people who had to flee Night City ended up in Dogtown. What you did might have been illegal in Night City, but it's not illegal and you're not wanted in Dogtown. And in this gameplay, we could see an absolutely hilarious transition where we are taking some chems and are instructed to picture ourselves as Kurt Hansen. And then lo and behold, we cut to a gameplay segment where we are literally playing as Kurt Hansen. We can see his home in the Black Sapphire here, and described how the closer you get to the Black Sapphire in Dogtown, the more militarized the areas will become, with this location almost feeling like a full-scale military base with tons of soldiers all over it. And some of the follow-up gameplay, we can see more of just how pretty Dogtown is. Even despite the destruction in some areas, you can see that there's definitely been a clear focus on certain locations to maintain or repair them. And to me, throughout the entirety of this gameplay, it just felt like there was a bit more going on. Like the city was more active, there are a few more NPCs than we typically would have, and I have to imagine a lot of this is going to be due to the additional upgrades they can make thanks to ditching the old gen of consoles and raising the minimum system requirements on PC. And they share some other details here. Kurt Hansen is described as being both a businessman and a warlord. It is seemingly Kurt Hansen who's shooting down the president's ship, just like we saw in past gameplay and trailers, although that's actually going to be about an hour into the story. And after we rescue the president from her crashed ship, we're going to have this segment where we're on the run with her. That's what they showed next during the Red Stream, several hours into Phantom Liberty, with us now fully on the run with the president. And in the scene, we're basically just discussing what's going on with the president, the political moves Kurt Hansen is making by taking her down, and the political play that's in action here. They confirm that with Phantom Liberty, there's going to be a new apartment available, although there is not going to be any new romance options. It feels like the most obvious choice for a romance option would have been the president, Rosalind Myers, especially when you consider her and V are on the run together, but the devs described how this just didn't feel honest to the story, nor some of the characters, so they didn't add it in. But then we get a look at one of the most anticipated new features with the police rework and vehicle combat. And this opens just perfectly, chilling in a car with two red dots for our vehicle mounted machine guns, and then mowing down some passerbys on the side of the road with those weapons. And after years of watching both devs and media not necessarily have the best aim while demoing games, it is incredibly refreshing to see that the person driving this car is somehow a god and can aim while navigating around. We very quickly see ourselves become wanted by the police, with two notable things happening. First off, we could see police cars driving up to greet us. With patch 2.0, police now always seem to spawn in vehicles, and they will chase you down when you're wanted, even if you're on foot, as well as we interestingly have a new 5th star wanted level compared to the typical 4 stars you have in Cyberpunk right now. And beyond just the built-in weapons and reworked police chases, the systems have a variety of other new features also. You can now hack other vehicles, you can use regular weapons out of the windows of your car, but you can also use things like melee weapons while driving a motorcycle, and vehicles even have weak spots now, most notably their gas tanks, and every car is going to be different, as well as you could shoot out the tires on a car to slow them down. The police AI is reworked here too. Initially, they're just going to show up to the reported last location of your crime, but the more stars you have, the more police will chase you down. And if you're wanted for a while, they're going to employ more aggressive tactics like pit maneuvers, or even roadblocks will be set up to get you. And we get a couple of cool previews here. At higher wanted levels, police will bring out their own weaponized vehicles also, but then there's also MaxTac, who's going to come in via their own dropship and take you out. MaxTac does seem to always arrive on foot via dropship, and a lot of you are probably thinking, wait, can you just drive away from them? Well, it turns out if you are in a car as MaxTac is coming to arrive, they'll actually hack your vehicle to disable it. As well as it is described during the stream that MaxTac's going to have 5 variants, and each drop will contain 4 of those 5 different variants. So there's likely going to be a bit more variability in what type of MaxTac members can spawn around you. And the police response you get will even vary by district. In Dogtown, Barghest soldiers will respond when you become wanted, and in the Badlands, Militech's going to respond instead. Although if you do get a full 5 stars, it doesn't matter where you are, MaxTac will respond to that threat. But even if you are in a typical Night City district, district with NCPD responding and patrolling. How they respond will be determined by which district you're in. So if you commit a crime in a better funded and more well-patrolled district, you'll get a more extreme response. But if you're in the lesser areas of Night City, even if you do become wanted, the police won't try as hard. And to take full advantage of some of these new gameplay systems around vehicles and vehicle combat, there's going to be a bunch of new vehicle gigs added in. There's going to be new vehicles to steal for El Capitan in both Dogtown and Night City, and doing these missions is how you're going to unlock some of the new vehicle weapons like missile launchers. But as you can see from the gameplay, you're going to be chased down during some of these gigs, and it's going to be a real-time way to use some of the new vehicle combat mechanics with a story attached to it. And during this, they mentioned how there's also going to be a new perk to enable vehicle hacking, and the deeper you get into net running, the more options you'll have as far as hacking vehicles go. With one of the most powerful options being the ability to remote control other vehicles. You could basically make them do whatever you want. And towards the end of the stream, they even addressed what was my biggest criticism of the Phantom Liberty marketing overall, as they more clearly lay out what features are going to be a part of Phantom Liberty versus what are going to be a part of patch 2.0, aka which of these new features are going to cost money versus which will be free for all existing owners. So first off, the free Update 2.0 features. This new perk tree is going to be totally free, as well as the revamped police system and vehicle combat will be free and added for everyone. But on the paid side, we have Dogtown Overhaul. You're going to only be able to access Dogtown if you own the expansion. The Relic skill tree is only for Phantom Liberty, as well as these new car gigs are only going to be for Phantom Liberty owners. They do explicitly confirm here that Phantom Liberty is dropping on September 26th, but Update 2.0 is coming a bit before that. We don't know exactly when Update 2.0 is coming out, but the earliest it can release is September 11th. So this is a weird legal thing going on right now. Update 2.0 is raising the system requirements for Cyberpunk 2077, and legally CDPR has to give 90 days notice before this patch can be applied. So yeah, it's going to be this weird scenario where the huge 2.0 update actually drops a week or two before the massive expansion. Honestly, to me, this is almost kind of nice in that these two videos will be more naturally and organically broken up into two different segments. But you're going to have this little weird period where you will only have access to Update 2.0 and you'll have to wait a couple of extra weeks to actually get full access to Phantom Liberty. As well as at the end of the stream, they just share a variety of new details about the game overall. Netrunning got some overhauls here. You're now going to be able to queue hacks on individual enemies, so upload multiple at once that will apply over time. This seems incredibly powerful, especially for tougher enemies or boss fights. Smart weapons and monowire have been upgraded to now synergize even better with netrunning, described as giving netrunning a whole new rhythm when paired with monowire or smart weapons. For the story of Phantom Liberty, we hear how it's going to be intertwined to the main story in that V's situation, aka the Relic, is a core part of Phantom Liberty, but it seems like beyond the Relic tie-in, Phantom Liberty is largely going to be its own contained story. Some areas of Dogtown will feel post-apocalyptic with how they've been abandoned and now are overgrown, and there's going to be a new level limit in the game. The expansion will raise the level limit to 60, so 10 more levels to play around with and unlock new abilities. And more is coming. During this, the project director let it slip that another red stream is coming in the next few weeks, and this is going to be a deeper dive into weapons and cyberware, many of the new items coming with Phantom Liberty and patch 2.0. As well as just next week on August 30th, CDPR is hosting their half one earnings call. During this, we're going to get to hear from the executives for the first time in a long time. I wouldn't be shocked if we even get some questions and potentially some answers about how work is beginning on a Cyberpunk sequel. And one of the other pretty interesting and exciting pieces of news to come out around Cyberpunk 2077 is around the upscalers. Earlier this week, Nvidia announced DLSS 3.5, with Cyberpunk 2077 being a core example of a game taking advantage of that. This is effectively going to be an AI-powered and better version of their upscaler. So as data is upscaled, things should look even clearer and more accurate now. Particularly lighting data is one of the main selling points of this new tech, using their new feature called Ray Reconstruction. And you can see Cyberpunk 2077 looks absolutely phenomenal with all of this enabled, if you can actually afford to run it like this. Although if you can't afford to run it like this, there still is hope. Earlier this week, a brand new branch of Cyberpunk 2077 was added on Steam with CDPR AMD Dev. This is very likely going to be testing for FSR 3.0 coming to Cyberpunk 2077. This is going to be an open source upscaler from AMD, so regardless of which graphics card you use, you can use this technology, as opposed to DLSS, which is reserved just for NVIDIA users, and DLSS 3.0 only for 4000 series NVIDIA GPUs. FSR 3.0 2.0 would potentially be a huge boost to performance if you're somebody already using FSR 2.1. This should be incredibly exciting to you because this will just mean more free FPS as you play, and I wouldn't be shocked if for a lot of people this means you could actually turn on path tracing when you previously couldn't. Obviously, no real details are known about what kind of performance benefits we'll get from this, but I wouldn't be shocked if we find out soon, and you have to imagine they want to have this out for Phantom Liberty. With that said, those are the updates on Cyberpunk 2077 2.0 and Phantom Liberty. And if you're tired of waiting, check out this video where I highlight the top 10 mods to ever come to the game and the perfect mods to download while we wait for Phantom Liberty.